Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of our national election debate. My name is Vuyo Mvoko. Now, tonight's debate is brought to you by SABC News in partnership with the University of Johannesburg and is broadcast from the SABC's Auckland Park studios. Now, political parties come and go, and a host of new parties have registered and are ready to contest this year's election in a little over 2 weeks' time. Tonight, we've invited 4 of the new parties to debate each other and try to convince us, the electorate, as to why we should cast our votes for them on the May 7th election. Let me give each one of them now to make an opportunity to make some opening remarks. I'm going to start with Akhang's Rorisang Chabalala to tell us in a minute what your party is all about.
Akhang is about putting the citizens at the center of policy, at the center of what government does, and making sure that we do that through 5 points that we believe are critical in making that happen. The first one is citizen empowerment, entrepreneurship, employment, and effective government, and education as well. We believe that employment and entrepreneurship helps citizens to live the best lives that they can live, but also education helps them to rise from where they are to where they want to be.
Thank you very much. That's Mr. Rorisang Chabalala representing Akhang. Mr. Gayton Mackenzie is representing the Patriotic Alliance. Sir, what's your party all about?
Right. Our party it's a non-racial party for everybody to join. But the party was birthed out of the injustice that's being visited upon the heads of particularly the colored community. In this country, that our people were not white enough, now they are not black enough. More colored youth are dying than the white rhino. But every time when you open any newspaper, the white rhino gets prominence in every newspaper. And we have everybody in South Africa, the most important thing for us, for everybody in South Africa, is the fact that our people should all be treated equally in South Africa. But at the moment, the colored community are surely being treated as second-class citizens.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gayton Mackenzie, representing the Patriotic Alliance. Mr. Floyd Shibambu, what is the EFF all about?
Well, the EFF is an economic emancipation movement which seeks to redress the imbalances of the past. Those who have been in power since 1994 have been unable to change what was before 1994. One is that South Africa is still the most unequal society in the world. 2, more than 25 million South Africans are living below the poverty line. 3, more than 7 million capable working people are unemployed because there are no job opportunities. The EFF seeks to change that through decisive leadership in the economy, but utilizing political power to make sure that we redistribute the economy for the benefit of all South Africans. And that can only happen when the state takes strategic leadership of all economic sectors in society. There is no society, there is no country in the world that has successfully industrialized and created jobs and halved poverty or dealt with poverty without state leadership. So we want to utilize state power to create job opportunities and control the economy for the benefit of all people.
Thank you very much, Floyd Shibambu, representing the Economic Freedom Fighters. Professor Nhlanhla Kubisa, you are the new kid on the block, but you have contested local government elections before, but it's the first time you are contesting national and provincial elections. What is your party offering?
That we are now entrenched, locally, that gives us a foothold to go for the future. We're saying to the South Africans, now is the time for them to secure their future, and the NFP is coming in as a voice, as the hope and the choice of them. And we're saying to them, they need that total emancipation. South Africans need to have a share on the levers of economy. They need to be getting skills. They've been betrayed for many years. Education is key to the development of all South Africans. And of course, we need to look into the issues of housing. We need to health as well. And also taking care of the young person out there and who's without any job, who's unemployed. And we see that there are disparities also that we need to bridge the gap. And also we need to look at the issues of corruption that is grinding into the marrow of the fabric of our society. And we want to say as the NFP, now is the time that we come with that moral leadership. we exercise servant leadership, we be responsible and take the country forward.
Thank you very much, Professor Nhlanhla Kubisa, representing the National Freedom Party. Professor Friedman, from our partners, the University of Johannesburg, you heard what this party have to say. Is there room for the ideas and the focus, or are they offering pretty much what we have already in the space?
Well, I think what we're finding, Vuyo, is that some parties are not really saying anything particularly different to other parties. But in South Africa, what we call identity politics is very important. So if you take a party like the NFP, I think that there are a considerable number of people in KwaZulu-Natal who will vote for the NFP because they feel that this is a party which speaks for them. And it hasn't got that much to do with politics. It has more to do with the sense that the party is close to you. And I guess the challenge of any new party is to find a group of South Africans who feel the same way about them. Now, I think Mr. Mackenzie's response is very interesting because he's talking about the Patriotic Alliance now as a party which is going to appeal to coloured voters, which I guess is an attempt to do that. Of course, I think what is confusing about what you have to say is that your co-founder of the party is Mr. Kuneni. Mr. Kuneni is not, as far as I know, somebody who's been a campaigner for coloured people's rights. So I think there may be some confusion between the message you're sending and the message that Mr. Kuneni is sending. But I think that there is always a room for smaller parties in our politics. But I think they're only likely to survive and grow if they find a niche within the electorate, a particular defined group of voters who they appeal to.
Well, let me start with the EFF. I mean, they do seem to have struck a chord. If the numbers of people attending your rallies, Mr. Shivambu, are anything to go by, what, in your view, are you doing right?
Now, look, we are speaking to the interest of the working class and the poor and the broader South African population. That is why even our manifesto is a product of massive consultations with what the people have been saying, with what the workers have been saying. If you look, for instance, in our minimum wage propositions, we took what the unions have been saying, that a reasonable amount for any worker in South Africa to sustain themselves must be 4,500, and we then turn that into a political program that we take 12,500 for mine workers. The demands of the old age in terms of the grant that they are receiving from government. And we then give that context because we understand that to reduce inequalities and poverty, you need to move more aggressively in the increment of minimum wages and providing sustainable but adequate social assistance. Brazil was able to reduce inequalities through those two interventions, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing here in South Africa when we are government after the 7th of May. Okay.
Mr. Chabalala, from where many people sit, it doesn't look like your party is attracting the kinds of numbers that they would have expected. Certainly, when the launch of your party, when you launched your party, people had expectations. Dr. Ramphele was seen as this credible person with a solid track record of being a leader and a business person, but it doesn't look like you are able to actually draw sufficient numbers.
I think we need to understand what we're about. The first thing is Dr. Ramphele remains a credible leader. She remains a leader with a solid track record and perhaps one of the best leaders that is being put out there for the vote in the next election. What we have found is when we have conversation with people, and most of this is happening on the ground by our dedicated volunteers and members, there is fear, obviously, to come out. So some people might not be ready to come out at this stage.
Why would they fear coming out in your case when they don't fear coming out with, in the case of the EFF?
Well, it's important to also note that the EFF has come from specific branches of the ANC anyway. Okay, so we are coming out and we are a new party. And we have started a new conversation with them. And people are resonating. We do have a lot to do. And obviously resources also have a lot to do with that. But what we have done is gone into communities. We have engaged them on the issues that we're coming with. And we are seeing an uptake. Obviously it will take time. And we don't mind because this is a multi-generational project that Dr. Ramphele launched to make sure that the citizens take charge.
Gentlemen, I'm going to take a quick ad break. We'll be back right after this.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
This is the program in which we showcase different aspects of government.
The Northern Cape is a land of many diverse cultures, of frontier history and brave missionaries. It also has countless challenges.
As a government, we are intervening in instances such as where jobs are being dished out based on nepotism and political allegiance.
More opportunities are being created each year to benefit all in the region.
This is a nation at work.
Your World provides trusted world, continent and local stories. We deliver breaking news from across the globe and information on the latest top stories on business, technology, politics and sport. Analysis of the big global business and economic issues as they affect consumers and investors. Make sure you don't miss Your World, weekdays between 11 and 12 midnight. We keep the nation fully informed.
If you've just joined us, whether it's on SABC 1, Channel 404 on DSTV, SAFM, or SABC News Online, welcome. In tonight's debate, 4 of the new parties contesting this year's elections are talking to us about what they have in store for South Africans. Mr. Mackenzie, let me come to you. Aren't you perhaps, with your sort of narrow focus, limiting yourselves?
Right. Just before I answer that question, I just need to answer what Mr. Friedman had said. When he spoke about our Secretary General, Mr. Kenny Kunene. What Mr. Friedman knows about our Secretary General, Kenny Kunene, is what is read about Kenny Kunene. He does not know Kenny Kunene.
Which is what? Sushis.
Which is sushis and all the things that the media, if they want a headline in this country, they call Kenny. If they want to write a story, if they want to sell newspapers, everybody comes to Kenny, and sometimes it's a figment of the imagination. But just to come to the point, you know...
But he does play along, doesn't he?
Well, you know, I can tell you that our Secretary General is one of the most popular people in this country, grassroots. He can go nowhere in this country without being swarmed by lots of people.
Because he wants a better deal for coloured people.
Just to answer him, Brown Fisher was not white. Bayers Nadir was not white. You don't need to be a particular colour or nationality to see the injustice of another race. Analysts like Mr. Friedman has in the past said that our party, when we were 2 months old, they said that we stand 0 chance. And we got 23% in the by-election in Vredendal. So I don't really particularly take note of what political analysts are saying. These are the very same people that didn't predict that Jacob Zuma would become president of this country. Mr. Kenny Kunene identifies with the suffering and the injustice that's being visited upon the heads of colored people in this country. And we don't look at the past of people. We look at what they contribute and we look at the future. And Patriotic Alliance does not say colored people should be treated better than any other nationality. But what we are saying is that give us the same treatment. As I said to you, previously we were disadvantaged. Presently, our people are still being disadvantaged. So whether we narrow ourselves, but if the truth narrows us, then so be it.
Professor Kobisa, you are not interested in some small communities or constituencies. You want the whole nation, don't you?
Definitely.
Why?
I think we've proven the very fact that we contested elections nationally, the local government elections, and we came number 4 nationally. We're 3 months old. And I think we're firmly established in the Northwest, where we've got councillors in the Eastern Cape, in Gauteng, in Mpumalanga, you know, and also in KwaZulu-Natal. I should think we are now capable. South Africans out there have seen. I mean, where we co-govern or we govern alone in KwaZulu-Natal, that has served as a prototype of what we were there to offer as South Africans. We deal with the underdogs, and we are there for them every day. When we make sure that they get water, sanitation, roads, and houses, when we make sure that the government fiscus is not spent lavishly or wasted, we make sure that we keep the coffers of the government to serve the people. Now, South Africans are saying we're a party that carries no baggage, and we're ready for anything that South Africans can get. We're ready to liberate them, and we've shown that we have what it takes to liberate the South Africans.
Now, we definitely know how you differ or where you differ with Mr. McKenzie, for example, but how do you differ from what the EFF is offering?
No, I mean, we've taken a resolve not to focus on any other party. We've got a mission, we've got a vision, and we want to take South Africans to their destination. When we say, as the NFP, we want those learners, when they finish their matric, they have a computer literacy certificate, they've got a driver's license. The school curriculum can encapsulate that. That can be embraced. There is a lot of money in this country. When 31 billion is not accounted for, it's wasted lavishly. And we cannot account for the government fiscus. We're not able to manage government fiscus. That money could be well spent to empower our young ones to get their future. When we say there's a lot of corruption in this country, we want to strengthen the powers of the public protect and other Chapter 9 institutions. When we say there are women out there and our children who are abused and molested every day, within 1 second, about 77 women and children are raped. We want to say there needs to be a change in that. The law must bite. Crime is rampant in this country. It seems the law doesn't have its teeth. Law enforcement agencies must take their course and ensure that the perpetrators out there are apprehended, prosecuted, and jailed immediately.
Prof, why would someone listening to Professor Kubisa not want to vote for him? Is there something wrong, inherently wrong with our system that perhaps makes people what? Deaf or refuse to sort of open up to new parties?
No, I don't think people don't open up to new parties. I mean, if you look at Professor Kubisa's party, as he says, it controls several municipalities. It did very well in sections of KwaZulu-Natal. I think your challenge is to demonstrate. I think the question is, why would somebody who's not from KZN, who doesn't identify with you, vote for those issues that you put on the table? And I think that the problem you have, which is very often the problem with new parties, it's a problem with, if you listen to what Mr. Chabalala has to say, is everybody's against corruption. Everybody's in favour of job creation. Everybody's going to say we need clean government. So if you're appealing to sections of the electorate, I mean, what is it that you've got which the other parties don't have? And I mean, you can say you're not concentrating on other parties, but in the end of the day, you're competing with other parties. So if you're going to get people to vote for you, you have to persuade them that there's something special about you. And I think the problem about all these messages, which simply repeat what everybody else is saying anyway, is that they don't establish that you're particularly special.
Is the EFF, for example, repeating what everyone is saying?
No, it's not repeating what everybody else is saying. But I think the notion that it represents workers and the poor is fanciful. I don't think there's any evidence that it represents workers and the poor. Mr. McKenzie might cite the Vredendal by-election. With respect, 23% in the Vredendal by-election doesn't get you a seat in the legislature, let alone in the National Assembly. The EFF is untested at the moment. The EFF has never contested an election. I think that the EFF is benefiting spectacularly at the moment from a love affair with the media. Part of our politics is that in all the last few elections, the media have chosen a particular party which they think will be a game changer. It was the UDM, then it was COPE, now it's the EFF. And I think it's benefiting from that. Whether that actually translates into a substantial number of votes, we'll only see after May the 3rd.
Mr. Shubambu?
I don't know what Stephen Friedman is speaking about, because he has been saying this hollow statement that the EFF does not represent the working class and the poor, and he does not point exactly to what is it which in this manifesto of the EFF does not speak to the interest of the working class and the poor. I've just illustrated. Please don't shout at me. We gave you time to speak. We gave you time to speak.
You know and I know that manifesto doesn't call for nationalisation. You've admitted that on national radio. So don't quote the manifesto.
No, but the manifesto speaks about, at least give yourself time to read the manifesto before you come on national television and speaks about things that you do not know about.
I know.
I'll give you a copy after this so that you can read next time when you analyze. But now let's locate these issues properly and not entertain confuse the political analysts on this question. Look, all existing political parties, it looks like the NFP and Agang have joined band, are speaking within the current fiscal framework of South Africa. They are not speaking about fundamental economic transformation that will lead to industrial expansion to create many job opportunities.
No. I think it's missing the point.
Now, the EFF...
I think it's missing the point.
Now, the EFF... Can I finish the point and then we'll come back? I'm sure you're going to give in time as well. Now, the EFF says that we have got the national fiscals of about R1 trillion. Like, private sector corporation is like 20% of that national fiscals, about 200 billion, which cannot fund the whole education system in South Africa. But we're the best producers of minerals, we're the best producers of other metals that are critical in industrialization of other countries. Now, we're saying that we need to nationalize those so that we can locally beneficiate and industrialize the mineral resources to create job opportunities, but also to expand the size of the economy to improve everyone's lives. It is not going to be possible to use the existing 1 trillion to better the living conditions of the people. We need to expand that, and our solution is industrial expansion, which we spell out clearly in terms of the sectors that must be expanded, also in terms of the trade policies that we must adopt to make sure that industrial development happens successfully.
To hold your thoughts right there, we're going to take another short ad break. Don't go away.
When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. Just because I'm presuming that I could be kinda human if I only had a heart. I'd be friends with the sparrows and the boy who shoots the arrows if I only had a heart.
Zoom into Africa. This is Burkina Faso. The president is Mr. Blaise Compaoré. Burkina Faso got independent from France on 5th August 1960. The population is more than 17 million people. One of Burkina Faso's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is CFA.
Welcome back. You are watching and listening to a debate between 4 of the new parties taking part in next month's general election. Mr. Chabalala, I want to come to you. To what extent does your party think that the whole saga of your leader versus the DA and her going there and then coming back will affect you in this election? Is it something you have discussed at all?
Yeah, definitely. We do acknowledge that there was damage caused by that, and we're not going to be fanciful, as Mr. Friedman said, that there wasn't any damage done. I think what the party has also noted is that when the leader said she had made a mistake, she apologized and corrected the mistake. Meanwhile, we still have uncorrected mistakes of e-tolls and so on that are still going on. So Mr. Friedman asked a question around what differentiates us. Yes, the message, we all want the same thing for our people. These are parties that have gone in because they want to serve the people of South Africa. So yes, we want the same thing, but it is the substance underneath that we need to look at. Every leader will make a mistake at some point. The question is, how do they bounce back from that, and how do they correct their mistakes? And the leader has definitely done that and demonstrated that should a time come again when mistakes are made, they are not going to be swept under the carpet. We are not going to send a spin doctor, a Mac Maharaj, to come and resolve it. She is going to take accountability and fix it and make sure that we move forward from there.
Where is the evidence of your bouncing back? In other words, what are you using to measure that?
Well, we are using our interactions with the people. Ultimately, our best barometer of what is happening is what's happening on the ground. And that's why I'm able to say to you, indeed, there has been some damage that has been done, but we do not feel that it is damage that cannot be corrected. We have understood that when we go to South Africans and we explain what the intention was, and the intention was very simple. It was about making sure that we realign South African politics. But perhaps in the way that it was not done in a way that brought along South Africans along the journey and the citizens of our country along the journey. And that has been corrected. Lessons have been learned, and it's a question of now, what do we do moving forward? We don't want to necessarily also come out with messages that are just, fanciful and big messages that might not necessarily be implemented. We, for example, are concerned about what's happening on the Platinum Belt. Now, are we going to, for the sake of trying to get those people, make promises that cannot be delivered? And once again, we upset and we disappoint ordinary South Africans and citizens who are ultimately going to turn on one another while we go and we sit in big houses behind big fences. And
you're not saying the EFF, for example, which has got a strong presence in that part of the world, is doing that, aren't you? Are you?
Well, I might be saying it. I think they're making promises that they might find difficult to fulfill. And my concern, no, allow me to finish. I mean, you educated Mr. Friedman. Allow me to finish. Okay, cool. I think, those people are holding on to the fact that they will get 12.5. Say the EFF does not get into power. And there's a big chance they won't, then that promise will not be fulfilled. Then they will want to turn around and blame the ANC, and it will turn the people on the ground against one another, and blood will be spilled, not because of what politicians have said. And I think it is irresponsible to try and differentiate yourselves by putting other people on the front line when you yourselves are sitting behind high fences, making sure that you are safe from the consequences of the promises that you've made that you cannot fulfill.
I'm going to ask him to respond directly to that, but before I do that, Mr. Mackenzie, you are dying to say
yes,
something.
I think there's just some things that we need to put out there. South Africa is an extremely wealthy country. This is the one thing that the message that goes out is a message of we can't afford to pay people this much. We can't afford to do that. But I can tell you that we are in the top 3 when it comes to gold. We're in the top 3 when it comes to diamonds. We're in the top 3 when it comes to platinum. Now, how can a country like Germany pay their people better than us? And they have none of the things I've just mentioned. So when the young leader speaks about upsetting people, he's actually talking about upsetting the investors at the expense of the people.
I didn't say that.
But we need to be honest. What this country needs, and that is what there's too much red tape in this country. We need to be honest. It's just a coincidence that I have businesses in Ukraine and I have a business in Zimbabwe. And I've seen both countries go up in flames, for lack of a better word. In South Africa, we are on our way there. And I'll make you 2 examples why I say that. Let's take the land issue. It's a very explosive issue. We know that the willing buyer, willing seller didn't work in this country. And now you have a very strong voice coming out, which is the EFF, saying that let's expropriate the land without compensation. Now this is where we as the Patriotic Alliance is a problem. Because not everybody that's in possession of land in this country has stolen that land. Not everyone. Now what we are saying as Patriotic Alliance, we are saying that, guys, government should have a backbone and say, let's expropriate the land at a price decided by government. Because you are going to war in this country. There's no white people are going to sit like this and say, all right, take the land. It's going to be war. This beautiful jewel of South Africa cannot afford that. And secondly and lastly.
So you're also saying that the EFF is being irresponsible?
They are very irresponsible. Lastly, when it comes to gold, to the mining industry in this country, South Africa is a rich country, and the time has come where young people need to come up and benefit. Take myself as an example. When I came, they closed all windows, they closed all doors, but I went through the wall and I got myself on this table where the people are sitting and sharing the spoils of this country. And I've realized that we need to be honest with each other in this country and say that South Africa is rich. How do we share this? Asking 12,500 per month is really not a big ask in South Africa.
I think the question is, will you have the power to make that happen?
Let's get Mr. Shivam.
We have a responsibility in the EFF from a commissar responsible for political education. Maybe I must use this opportunity educate the two small parties that are on the other side. Let's see.
No, but he educated himself out of the ANC. They chased him out.
Let's deal with this.
How can you educate me that walked out of the ANC? Can I just say something for you? I walked out of the ANC by free will. Now, with all his education, he was booted out, and he tried to come back in, and they refused him.
Let's get him to
speak. How can you educate me?
Now, the company which is the biggest mining company in South Africa is called BHP Billiton. And the second biggest one is called Anglo-American. These companies are doing mining in Australia. And the minimum wage of mine workers in Australia is far above what the mine workers are getting in South Africa. Actually, the crisis of mining and mine workers in Australia is obesity. Here in South Africa, it's disease, it's homelessness, it's sickness, because the very same companies are not respecting the South African black workers. And it's not impossible, it is not irresponsible to speak about equal pay for equal work, because there are mine workers in all across the board and everything else. But because of the racist capitalist agenda that is driving South African society and economy today, they are ignoring the responsibility to take care of the mine workers on the ground. Now, on land question, we are saying that let us do to land what we have done to mineral resources. Now, through the Minerals and Petroleum Resources Development Act, all minerals are under the custodianship of the state. We are saying that the state must be a custodian of all South African land and redistribute it equitably so that we can involve as many people as possible in the food economy and produce our own food. The most important thing that we emphasize in that particular point is that we need to increase the agricultural productivity of South Africa, because we're not producing enough food to feed ourselves. And if we involve as many people as possible in agriculture and the entire food economy chain, it means we're going to create sustainable jobs, because food demand is constant and it's unending. It's unlike minerals whose prices fluctuate every now and then and everything. That is what we're speaking about. And that obviously will speak about the state capacity, which we can speak about in detail, yes.
Okay, we are going to get into that. That's after this short ad break.
Your World provides trusted world, continent, and local stories. We deliver breaking news from across the globe and information on the latest top stories on business, technology, politics, and sport. Analysis of the big global business and economic issues as they affect consumers and investors. Make sure you don't miss Your World, weekdays between 11 and 12 midnight. We keep the nation fully informed.
Welcome back. You are watching and listening to a debate between four of the new parties taking part in next month's election. Mr. Chabalala, I want to come back to you. You wanted to correct, or was it educate?
Yes.
Mr. Shibam. Yes, go ahead.
He did a very poor job of trying to educate me about the economy, but I will do a very simple job of educating him about politics. The issue is not whether the workers should get 12.5 or not. It is whether you as a political party will have the power to make that happen. And I am saying it is very irresponsible for the EFF to make promises at this stage that they will not be able to fulfill, because they will need to have certain majorities in parliament and so on to make it happen. They know that. But they are
is it
going
about
out,
the numbers?
But
is
they
it
are
a numbers game, or is it about the principles?
No,
what you stand
the principle.
for?
The principle. No. The principle. I am not disputing the principle. And I need to make it clear, I am not disputing the principle. What I am disputing is making promises that you will not be able to deliver, because that is exactly what our people are crying about. They're crying about politicians who are using them as fodder. Go to the Platinum Belt. Go and spend time there and see what is happening, not just to the mine workers, not just to the mine workers, no, not just to the mine workers, but also to the community there where people are losing their jobs, where households are going without an income, because the EFF has made irresponsible promises they will not be able to deliver. When they fail to deliver, they will go and blame somebody else, and you know what? They're going to turn the people on the ground against one another. Sons are going to lose their fathers. We are a fatherless society, and it's going to happen again because of the broken promises of politicians, and it is an irresponsible thing. And that is why we're saying you need leaders of integrity who will make promises that they know they can fulfill on, leaders who are not stained by corruption and lies of the past. They are tested, Mr. Friedman, in politics. Remember, they are the ANC Youth League in drag. They have done politics before. They have now stepped out. They are now wearing a red beret.
Well, may I just say one thing and ask another question? When my leader this side talks about we will have a fatherless society, we represent the very same people that has no fathers. Their fathers has been killed. And the government, particularly in the Western Cape, has done nothing when young people are being killed. So I'm very happy that he represents people that still has fathers. Our constituencies, there's no father. But I just want to ask Mr. Sivambo two quick questions.
Yes.
My friend came to South Africa 2 years ago. We drove in Cape Town. He saw how beautiful Cape Town is. He bought land. He's an outsider. He paid for the land. He went through the right channels to acquire that land. 2 years ago, number one, is he a land thief? My second question is, you speak about nationalizing the mines. 60% of the current mines in this country is not making money. They're running at a loss. Now, are you going to nationalize those two? Or are you going to cherry pick, oh, you make money, and I'm going to take that one? Then next month he doesn't make money. What are you going to do?
Do you want to explain that?
No, I don't think. I just want to answer it. This was to Mr. Shivambo.
Yes, Mr. Shivambo.
Look, let's first deal with the issue of irresponsible promises to mine workers. The mine workers themselves are the ones who began the struggle for 12,500. There's no politician who went to Marikana and said that you must start demanding 12,500. They said among themselves, measure the work they do underground and measure their contribution to the company, and said themselves that we're going to fight for 12,500 because that is equal to the amount of work we give to these particular companies. And they were killed by the ANC government for demanding that 12,500 in collaboration with Lon Min and Cyril Ramaphosa and all those people who were involved in that particular process. And as a responsible working class based movement, the EFF said that these are the people who associate with. These are the people, these are our people, because even when the ANC Youth League were involved in the struggles of the workers in the Platinum Belt, we were able to reinstate more than 30,000 workers in Impala Platinum who had been fired there by the company. We went there to make sure that they are reinstated and have got proper jobs. Now,
so
let's respond. Yeah, let's respond to
the idea that the EFF has ever reinstated a single worker is pure fiction.
Let's
you are making this up as you go along.
Right? Look, the reason we've got a crisis of diminishing mining in South Africa is because we're just extracting the mineral resources and ship them out of the country. Our plan around mining is that we must extract the mineral resources, beneficiate them, and industrialize them. So the entire mining value chain from input to outputs and everything else must be happening here in South Africa, and such is going to lead to expansion of the economy, which is going to lead to the increased input into the national fiscus, but also is going to create many sustainable job opportunities, because there will now be an industrial and beneficiation process that will be linked to the nationalized mines. And we're not going to go reckless about it. You know that there's a myth that runs around that the state is unable to deal more decisively with some of the corporations. There are instances where the ANC government is unable to manage corporations, but I can give you examples of AXA, of Transnet and everything else. So ourselves as the EFF, we're going to make sure that all the mineral resources that must be beneficiated and industrialized here
whether
are
making money or not.
Look, we're not going to take over.
Allow me to educate you how to answer a question. I asked you 2 questions.
That's fine.
Just answer my question.
Then the second issue is that we're not going to allow foreign ownership of land. That isn't going to happen, so we're not going to get there.
So that includes your friend.
We're not going to have foreigners who will come and buy South African land and everything. That is not going to happen.
And assured them a month ago that the investment is safe in the country. A month ago, we read that you met foreigners. Now today, when
what will happen, Vuyo, is that some billionaire from America can come and buy the whole of South Africa. 80% of land is belonging in white hands today.
Okay,
so what if a billionaire comes here and buys the whole of South Africa?
EFF, if it takes over, it's going to take his land.
The fact is, nationalization has failed internationally. It has never worked. And we don't need utopia. From the NFP side, we talk practical. We're in government. We're in the crucible of service delivery and development. We've done it. We've built houses. We've given roads, schools. We are there. And we only have to consolidate our constituency, wherever we are. In the Northwest, for instance, we have to say to our councillor out there, you deliver. And then the next thing with regard to the mines, the rich are getting richer.
The global economic crisis now ongoing because of privatization and failure of capitalism. And here is a professor who comes here and say that nationalization has failed worldwide. Which country in the world has industrialized without state participation?
Look. There are mines.
I thought you were a professor.
There are mines controlled by this country, but they've become ghettos. Go to Klerksdorp, for instance. The miners are there. They are not well catered for.
Which mines are those?
They are not well catered for. You look at all the mines. The rich are getting richer. We are saying as the NFP, the multinationals that are coming in and taking control of these mines, and the people who are working there, even the people in this country not benefit, and it will not help us. We have got to benefit the people within the country, give them the licenses. The foreigners who are coming in, they must be taxed in a way that whenever they come in, they've got to collaborate and partner with the people within the country. That's how it... Look, if we say the mines are having a share of 920 billion, just recently, Amplus lost about more than 5,000 jobs. What do we do? Some negotiations with the state, the workers, the miners, we come together and ensure that the plight...
You see, when it comes to job losses, it has got nothing to do with the economy. It's got to do with the egos of the CEOs. And trying to prove they both right. Let me make you an example. Let me just make you an example.
Can I come in on that one?
The example I'm going to make you is Implats. Implats was told in Zimbabwe by Robert Mugabe. They were told... No, I was on the floor. Implats were told by Robert Mugabe, give us half of your mine. What then happened? In South Africa, they were not willing to do that. But in Zimbabwe, they said, yes, we will do that. Listening to both gentlemen speaking, it's very obvious that we are in big trouble in this country if both of them can take over.
Okay, yes or no? Do you support nationalization? Or
we can't support nationalization, but there are ways that the citizens can benefit. You can't nationalize.
What happens where private capital, as he says, doesn't want to come to the party?
No, you see, that is a investor myth. Zimbabwe, or let's say DRC, there's war, there's rebels in the DRC.
And they are there.
But they are there. No, I don't buy, because I'm an investor myself. As long as our gold is in the ground, they will come.
Okay, thank you very much. Hold your thoughts right there, gentlemen. We're going to take another short ad break. We'll be back.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
An earth tremor has hit parts of Johannesburg. No damage or injuries have been reported after magnitude 4 tremor this morning. The tremor shook parts of Johannesburg just before 10 this morning. It has been described as quite a big guy.
The provisional epicenter that the Council for Geoscience has given is a few kilometers southwest of the University of Johannesburg.
Previously in 1999, a similar tremor was recorded measuring 5.7 in Valcom. Another event of this magnitude can be expected again within the next 3 weeks.
That's Primetime News, daily at 6 p.m. on SABC News. Insurer American International Group has sold its aircraft leasing business to AerCap Holdings for $5.4 billion.
The Chinese couldn't do it, but the Dutch landed the deal. AIG sold its huge jet leasing business to Holland's AerCap Holdings.
AIG has been trying to sell International Lease Finance Corp since 2008, when the insurance giant nearly collapsed and was forced under federal government control.
AIG has been shedding businesses since the government bailed it out.
That's News at 1, daily at 1 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back to this final part of this debate, brought to you by SABC News in partnership with the University of Johannesburg. Gentlemen, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'm going to ask each one of you to make some concluding remarks. I'm going to start with Akhang. 1 minute.
Ultimately, we stand for making sure that the citizens are at the heart of our policies and making sure that we've got responsible state intervention. That does not mean nationalization, but it means working along with the private sector and the rest of society to make sure that the people at the heart of the matter benefit. Those are the citizens of this country. We are very concerned about issues where the politicians seem to want to rise and the people fade. We are saying it is time for the citizens to rise and for the politicians to fade. What we need to be doing is providing an enabling environment for the citizens of this country to rise up and to claim the leadership of this country. Finally, I just want to respond to this issue of nationalization to also say that it is very important to note that the platinum prices, for example, are going down right now. Now, as long as no one is buying your product, then it means that the basis of your business does not exist. So we need to be looking at other sectors of the economy. The mining sector is going down. There are other sectors of the economy that we can also be developing, and Akhang is looking at a multifaceted approach to development.
Mr. McKenzie?
All right. What we're basically saying as Patriotic Alliance is that in this country we do not need all the suggestions that we're seeing on the table. What we are saying is that we as South Africans should, the ones that the ones that got money and got resources, and I include myself in that. We need to know that we gotta lose some of that. We gotta lose some of that. We gotta lose some of that, and then we must all hold hands, black, white, Indian, everybody that calls themselves a South African, and we can find a solution. We are the children of Nelson Mandela. There is a solution, or there are solutions in this country for the problems that we are faced with. But you got to be open-minded about it. And just lastly, when it comes to nationalization, I think they're misunderstanding Floyd. He means him and his leadership is going to nationalize the mines for themselves.
Floyd Chibambu, your concluding remarks?
No, look, the liberation movement has brought political freedom in South Africa, but they have dismally failed to bring about economic freedom. Yes, a movement, the economic freedom fighters, that is going to bring about economic freedom. And that can only happen through strategic state control and ownership of the key sectors of the economy, because for the past 20 years, the private sector had been given a space to create jobs, to do everything else that has to happen, including to deliver services like building houses and all the things that government is supposed to do. But they've all failed. Now let us take leadership of our society and make sure that we rebuild South Africa to be a promising and better nation that it is to be. Let us do it for the future, not for the past.
As the NFP, we say no more betrayal of South Africans. They've waited for so long, it's only promises. Let's deliver to them. Deliver to the young ones education. Give them education, skill them in order to govern this country. Let them rule this country. Give them houses, decent housing. A house with a toilet, a house with a shower inside, that's what they need. Give them health. Nursing colleges must be there. Education colleges must be there. Those colleges of education, they must be there. Make sure that this country is well governed. No more corruption. Ensure that women are protected, children are protected. Then we'll be better South Africa. We bring in the skill. We bring in experience as NFP. We can deliver. Vote NFP.
Friedman.
Yeah, I think, this is a debate among the newer, smaller parties, etc. I think that the newer parties, the smaller parties which are going to do well in this election are those who identify very clearly a section of the electorate, who are realistic. I mean, the more boasts we hear about people winning elections, etc., the more they're likely to be found out afterwards. So I think of the parties gathered here, those who are able to correctly identify a section of the electorate, appeal to them, and get yourself an issue in Parliament are the ones we're going to see back after the election.
Professor Fredman, thank you very much. And to our panelists, thank you very much as well. Unfortunately, that's where we're going to leave this week's debate. Join us again next week, same time. Good night.